Ladderback Jacquard. Manage long floats in straighted colorwork knitting. Hi, I'm Alexis Winslow from knitdarling.com, and today I'm going to demonstrate the ladderback jacquard technique. This is a very cool technique for invisibly managing long floats in colorwork knitting. You can see this technique in action on my new pattern, the Arquette Pullover. I'm going to start with a little backstory, but if you'd like to skip ahead to the demonstration, I've put the chapter markers in the description below. So let's take a look at another example.
Here you can see a fair isle motif that has some long floats. The ladderback jacquard method turns these long floats into ladders of interlocking stitches. This neatly secures the floats and gives the piece some very impressive elasticity.
Now, why would you want to manage long floats like this? Well, there are three related reasons: elasticity, tension, and stitch distortion. The longer your float is, the less elastic your knitting will become. If you need to stretch your knitted garment, like to get it over your head, for example, you may end up pulling the long floats and distorting your motif. Also, most people have trouble maintaining even tension with long floats. If you aren't careful, your knitting will become tighter and tighter with every progressive row. This can cause puckering in your knitting and make it extremely inelastic. Lastly, long floats are just more susceptible to getting tangled or caught on things like fingers and jewelry. Snags can seriously mess up the beautiful design that you've painstakingly knitted. Now, there is another much more common technique called catching or trapping a float that addresses some of these same problems, but it has some drawbacks, especially if you're going to be using it many times in one piece. The trapping floats method can have the same problems with elasticity, and it's still a little bit visible from the front side sometimes. I mainly use this technique only when I have an odd long float here or there. The ladderback jacquard method is especially suited for areas of circular color work that have multiple rows of long floats stacked one on top of each other, which is what I'm going to demonstrate next. Here's how to knit the ladderback jacquard technique. First, create the initial ladder stitch.
Work to the spot where you want to place the ladder. I'll discuss that a little bit more in a minute. Bring the main color to the front of your work first. Then bring the float color to the front. It's important that you move these in that order. Next, we're going to increase one stitch. Do a make one left increase. Now purl into the back loop with the float color. You can actually use any increasing method here, but I prefer using either the lifted increase or the make one left increase because they are invisible and anchor the ladder to the fabric. Move both yarn strands to the back side at the same time. This new stitch is the ladder stitch, or sometimes I call it the jacquard stitch. This extra stitch will live on your needle for all subsequent rows until you are done with the section that has long floats.
Next, continue the ladder pattern.
On the next row, you'll just work over to the jacquard stitch and you'll see it kind of looks a little different, so it should be pretty obvious. So this is the jacquard stitch. So the first thing you're going to do is move the working yarn to the front between the two needle tips, and then after that, it's important you get this in order. Move the float color to the front, and then purl that stitch, that jacquard stitch, and then move both to the back at the same time. And then you can continue with your charted motif as normal.
Continue working the ladder stitch on every row as described until the width of the float is about 5 stitches or less. Now I'll show you how to end the ladder.
So the way you end the ladderback jacquard is, so I've worked over to the ladder stitch here. You can see my pretty ladder on the back side. All you have to do is knit two together with the color of your pattern, like that.
Now you can identify where you want to put your ladder stitch within your motif on the fly, but personally, I like to plan it ahead of time and mark my chart so I don't get confused. You want to place your Jacquard stitches so that you never have a float that's longer than 5 stitches or 6 at the max. I like to mark the chart with a line or maybe some dots between the stitches. You can see I've already done this work for you on the chart for my Arquette pullover, which looks like this. Well, that's about it for this video, but if you'd like to learn some more, I have some bonus material over at my blog on knitdarling.com. I'll link that in the description below if you want to go check that out. I hope that you had fun learning and will incorporate the ladderback jacquard method into your knitting tool belt. If you liked this video, please subscribe to my YouTube channel and you'll be notified whenever a new tutorial becomes available. Thanks for watching.